off, I'm going to get you to imagine that you're standing right where you are, but thousands upon thousands of years ago. If we were to look up, we would have been covered by a limestone roof all the way across here. And we would have been in complete and absolute darkness. On top of that roof, there would have been some trees growing, and those tree roots would have been coming down through the limestone looking for water. Eventually, those trees are going to die, the roots are going to rot away, and it leaves a hole, and that's what we call a solution pipe. With weathering and erosion, those holes become bigger and bigger, and there were many solution pipes scattered through this roof, so it led to the gradual collapse of this cavern. So we are now in what we call a doline, which is a very, very common karst feature down here. This also led to the establishment of this really beautiful sunken forest behind me here. So those really big trees you see in the sunken forest, they are called the karri tree. They're a very predominant tree species down here, and they can live up to 400 years old. These ones are only about 100 to 150 years old though. This big tree stump here, she fell quite a number of years ago. You'll get to walk past her on our way down. We dated her at 350 years old, so we call her Grandma Karri.
Happy birthday.
So just looking up and behind you, there's some really cool formations. Those ones from the roof, they are called stalactites. And the ones growing from the ground are the stalagmites. So when they reach each other, we call that a column. And you can see two of those just there. So these ones did start to form when this was an underground cavern. However, they are actually still forming. So if you look on the tips of some of those stalactites, you might see a little drip of water. It means that they're still growing or still active. And these ones have a bit of an ancient and Gothic look to them. That is because they've been exposed to the weather and the elements has changed their colour and their texture. The ones we're about to go down and see in Lake Cave look very, very different, very beautiful. It feels like you're in a crystal ice palace, but we do want to keep it that way. So before we head down, guys, I need to ask you a few things. Please no touching any of the formations because we have oil and dirt on our skins. It will change the colour of the crystal, stop them growing, and they are very fragile, so we don't want them first person out, there's a red button just to the right of the gate. You just got to hold that down and it'll open it up automatically for you. So we are now down as deep as we will go. We are 62 meters from the surface. So this is the deepest of all our show caves. It's also the smallest. So you might notice the floors are quite wet. There's a bit of dripping going on. And that's because this cave is very, very active, all still forming. So what's happening is rainwater enters our atmosphere. It collects some carbon dioxide, some percolating down through the limestone above us, picking up calcium carbonate, reaches the cave roof, and we have a process called degassing. The CO2 is released and a small ring of calcite crystal is deposited. That drip of water falls away, another drip comes, deposits that crystal, and the process goes on. So those really skinny ones just there, they are called straws, and they are hollow. If and when they get a blockage, it could be from calcite or impurities, that water pressure will build up within the straw, be forced outside of a pore, and that's when you get the crystal deposition on the outside and those thicker stalactites. Then the stalagmites, they're growing from the ground up and they're collecting the water that is dripping from the cave roof. So I know a few of you have been dripped on already. Has anyone? Yeah? Any others? No drips yet? No. Well, there's a whole lot of cave to get through, so don't worry if you haven't been dripped on yet. But we think it's really good luck if you get dripped on. And that's because it takes at least 10 months for that water to drain through the limestone above us. So very, very long time.
Like a falling star.
Yeah.
I just thought there was a little driplet of water just running.
You're very lucky, very lucky. So guys, we're going to keep making our way on through. Just try and stick to the left because there is no hand railing to the right hand. Alright guys, so although this is called Lake Cave, it's not actually a lake. It's a very slow moving underground stream. If I shine my light on the water and you look up at the cave roof, you get this really beautiful ripple effect.
Wow! What? But are there any animals in the water?
So yes, there's no animals that live inside the cave naturally, but except for some very microscopic aquatic organisms. And they are called stygofauna. So we have about 6 species that live in the water here in Lake Cave. They have evolved and adapted to life in the cave, so they are very small translucent crustaceans. They don't have any eyes. What we're going to go, we're 82 meters from the entrance. So this is the smallest of all our caves. We are also directly below Caves Road. So if you drove from Margaret River, you would have driven right over the top of yourself where you're standing now.
That's the road, the caves road.
Right up there, 62 meters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is this the end of the cave?
This is the end of the cave, so we've explored the whole cave now. So guys, just to the left here, there's some honey and caramel coloured stalactites.
Wow!
So what's happened here is the water has collected tannins from decaying vegetative matter. Those tannins haven't been filtered out down through the limestone, and they've stained the crystals that beautiful colour there. It's a bit like brewing yourself a hot pot of tea. Put your tea leaves in, it stains the water brown. The same thing has happened here.
Look.
There is our suspended table.
Wow.
So Lake Cave is the only one of our caves that has water in it all year round. So you get those really beautiful reflections.
Hindi ako nakinig eh.
Alright guys, here we have our resident cave dragon.
No, I'm not thirsty yet.
So guys, in a few moments, I'm going to be turning out the lights for some cave darkness. So I just need to make sure that you have all your bearings, make sure your kids don't run around when the lights are turned off. When you are all ready, after you get your photos, I'll also get you to help me out and just cover up any lights from cameras, phones, torches or watches so we can really get a feel for what the cave is like naturally.
Okay.
This goes for about 30 seconds. If it gets too much, just call out and I'll be able to turn the lights back on. The bridge extends from cape to cape and is about 3 kilometres wide. So what happened millions of years ago is we had a cycle of ice ages. The sea drew right back and exposed heaps of coral, sand, shell and sediment. That was then blown up into sand dunes by strong westerly winds and then cemented by dune vegetation and rainfall in the warmer and wetter periods. So if you look up here, you'll see some browner patches, and they are called paleosols, or buried soils, and they are from the warmer and wetter periods between the ice ages.
I like this.
Whoa.
So just at the front there, that's the formation we haven't
Magical.
seen yet. Looks a bit like an upside down Sydney Opera House.
Yeah, so magical.
So they are called shoals, and they are forming in a similar way to stalactites, except the water is running down a slope in the cave roof.
I
And
got
it's
it.
depositing a thin line of calcite crystal on its way. That then forges a path for successive drips of water and creates these really beautiful sheet-like formations. And then just behind it there, we have the most active part of our cave. It's called the straw shower. So we'll be stopping there on the way back through to have a look at a few formations, but I'll just get you to filter through in a few smaller groups so you can all get a good look. And if you haven't been dripped on yet and you want some good luck, you want to stand under that straw shower because it's very, very active.
I also noticed something.
Yeah, what was that?
One of the rocks looked like a rhino.
Yeah, it's like cloud watching in here. If you use your imagination, it looks a bit like everything. So it's a really stable environment down here. It's about 14 degrees all year round. The air temperature and the water temperature is about 16 degrees all year round. And I mentioned before that this is an underground stream, and that water is fed from the Nindat Plain wetlands a kilometre to the east. It takes 5 years to get here. There's then another 2.5 kilometres of limestone that the stream follows before being released at Conto Spring. So if you haven't gotten your perfect photo of the suspended table, now's your time.
Ang galing nga, no? From afar, makikita mo talaga. That one, anak ko.
So there are over 100 known caves in this Capes region, but only a few are open to the public. We take care of Nilgi up in the north. It's got a really beautiful Indigenous Dreamtime story linked to it. There's Mammoth a few